My name is Tiffany Hart, and I was 31 years old when I learned that the person you love can casually dismantle you in front of strangers and call it honesty. From the outside, my life looked clean and well constructed. I founded my logistics company right after college. No investors, no safety net, just grit and a spreadsheet. I updated obsessively at 2 in the morning. We weren't a Fortune 500 operation, but we were real. 12 million in annual revenue, 65 employees, long-term hospital contracts, stability, substance. I thought that was enough. I had been engaged to Sean Chen, 32, for 6 months. We'd been together for 3 years. He worked in fashion retail management and had always been aspirational. He liked labels. He liked being seen. He liked the idea of success more than the work behind it. I told myself that balance was healthy, that my grounded practicality complemented his ambition. The first crack appeared at his friend Tanya Walker's engagement party. It was one of those upscale rooftop events where everyone pretends not to check each other's watches and shoes. Champagne flowed freely and Sean drank more than usual. We were standing with 3 other couples when the conversation drifted inevitably toward careers. Someone asked Sean how he felt being engaged to a company founder. He smiled, tilted his glass toward me, and said, "Tiffany's great. She really is. But sometimes I miss being with someone truly ambitious." The air shifted. "My ex-girlfriend, Samantha Blake," he continued, laughing lightly, as if this were charming. Now she had drive. She was going places. I felt every eye flick toward me. I smiled. "She worked in high finance," he added. "That kind of hunger, it's rare. Not everyone can handle that lifestyle." There it was, the pity. Soft, public, deliberate. Someone mentioned my company landing a major hospital network contract. Sean waved it off with a shrug. "It's cute, but it's not exactly high finance, is it?" I excused myself and went to the bar. What Sean didn't know, what he could never have imagined, was that Samantha Blake had applied to work for me 3 months earlier. I remembered her name instantly when I'd seen the resume. 2 years at Goldman Sachs. Analyst, then 3 startups, all failed, 8 months unemployed. At the time I'd passed. That night, holding a glass of wine I didn't finish, I made a different decision. Monday morning arrived with the kind of quiet that always settles over my office before the city fully wakes up. I liked being there early before the phones started ringing, before the warehouse floor buzzed to life, before people needed answers from me. That morning, I needed the silence. I closed my office door and stared at the resume on my desk. Samantha Blake, 2 years at Goldman Sachs. Analyst. That was the line Sean had loved repeating whenever he talked about her, always with a reverent tone, like her job title was proof of her worth, and by extension, proof of what he believed ambition should look like. Below that line, though, the resume told a much quieter story. 3 startups in less than 2 years. Each one folded. Each departure explained away with vague phrases about market conditions and strategic pivots. 8 months unemployed. At the time she'd applied, I'd passed without a second thought. I didn't need another operations manager, and her experience felt scattered, more narrative than substance. But now, with Sean's voice still echoing in my head, truly ambitious, I found myself picking up the phone. "Rachel," I said, when my HR director answered, "do you remember a candidate named Samantha Blake applied for operations manager a few months back?" There was a pause as she pulled up the file. "Yes, former finance background. We didn't move forward. I want to interview her." Another pause. Longer this time. "Really, her experience." "I want to meet her," I repeated calmly. "Thursday, 2 p.m. Rachel didn't argue. She rarely did. By Thursday afternoon, I had already made up my mind about one thing. Whatever happened next, I wasn't going to raise my voice. I wasn't going to explain myself. And I certainly wasn't going to act emotional. That would come later in private where no one could weaponize it against me. Samantha arrived 5 minutes early. She wore a blazer that had once been expensive but had clearly lived a long life. Her heels were scuffed. Her smile, though, was polished carefully. Confident, practiced in front of mirrors and interview panels. She didn't recognize my name when I stood to greet her. Why would she? To Sean and his friends. I was always Tiffany, who runs a delivery company. Never Tiffany CEO. Never Tiffany founder. Titles mattered, just not when they were mine. "So, Samantha," I said once we were seated, "tell me about your trajectory since Goldman Sachs." She launched into it smoothly, as if she'd rehearsed the story dozens of times, looking for new challenges, exploring innovative environments, learning resilience through adversity. Every sentence sounded impressive until you listened too closely. The startups didn't work out, I asked gently. Market conditions weren't favorable, she said quickly. But I learned a lot about perseverance. Perseverance. I thought about her LinkedIn profile, the public activity log, showing application after application, over 200 of them. Perseverance indeed. And what interests you about logistics, I continued. She didn't hesitate. It's a growing field. Stable. Essential. Translation, I need a job and you're hiring. That was when I leaned back in my chair and changed everything. I don't think you're right for the operations manager role, I said. Her shoulders stiffened. I saw disappointment flicker before she masked it. I see. But I added, I do think you'd be an excellent executive assistant to the CEO. She blinked. Once. Twice. Assistant, she repeated. You'd manage my calendar. Coordinate meetings. Handle travel logistics. Sit in on high-level discussions. You'd get a front-row seat to how this company actually runs. I watched her pride wrestle with her reality. The salary I mentioned wasn't glamorous, but it was solid, more than unemployment, less than Wall Street fantasy. Her smile returned thinner this time. That sounds like a great learning opportunity, she said. It did, just not in the way she imagined. She accepted immediately. Can you start Monday, I asked. Yes, absolutely. She stood extending her hand. Thank you, Ms. Hart. We keep things professional but friendly here, I said, shaking it. You can call me Tiffany in private. At work, it's Ms. Hart or ma'am. She nodded quickly. Of course. What I didn't need to say, was that she'd soon be managing dinner reservations with the man who still spoke her name like a benchmark. Sean had no idea. He was too busy posting about manifesting growth and leveling up on social media, completely unaware that the woman he idolized was about to start scheduling my meetings and asking me if I preferred oat milk in my coffee. Samantha's first day was yesterday. She was competent, efficient, eager in the way people get when they're afraid of losing something they can't afford to give up. And when she read aloud from my calendar, Ms. Hart, you have dinner. Thursday at 8 with Ms. Rodriguez. That's my fiancé, I corrected calmly. Sean Chen. Please update it. She froze. Sean Chen, she asked, her voice barely steady. Yes, I said, looking up at her. You might know him. The color drained from her face. I smiled. By Thursday evening, the tension had settled into my chest, like something solid, heavy, unmoving, impossible to ignore. I didn't say anything to Sean about Samantha. I didn't hint. I didn't warn him. I simply told him I needed to stop by the office before dinner to grab a folder I'd forgotten. He sighed dramatically, already annoyed. Do we really have to? He asked. I don't love being around warehouses before a nice dinner. It won't take long, I said. 10 minutes. He rolled his eyes but agreed, smoothing his jacket, as if reminding himself that appearances mattered even in places he considered beneath him. We arrived just after 7:30. The executive floor was quiet. Lights dimmed, except for a few offices still occupied by people who cared more about finishing their work than being seen leaving early. As we stepped off the elevator, Sean wrinkled his nose. This place always smells like printer ink and ambition, he muttered. I didn't respond. Down the hall, Samantha was still at her desk. I'd asked her to stay late. Nothing unreasonable, just a few reports I wanted compiled by morning. She was typing quickly, shoulders tense, clearly eager to prove herself. Perfect timing. Samantha, I called out, my voice, calm, professional. Could you step away from your desk for a moment? She looked up and saw Sean. Her fingers froze above the keyboard. Sean stopped walking. For half a second, none of us moved. Then recognition hit him hard and immediate. His confident posture collapsed inward like air rushing out of a punctured balloon. Samantha, he said, disbelief sharp in his voice. What are you? Samantha is my executive assistant, I said lightly, as if explaining a seating arrangement. She's been doing excellent work. Her badge hung from her neck, company logo unmistakable. Sean's mouth opened, closed, opened again. Tiffany, he said slowly, turning toward me. Why is my ex-girlfriend here? Wearing your company badge. I smiled. Because she works here. Samantha swallowed hard. Sean, she said, her voice barely audible. Samantha, I interrupted gently. Could you check whether the Marchetti contract is finalized for tomorrow morning? Yes, ma'am, she said quickly, almost tripping over her own words as she turned back toward her desk. Sean stared after her, stunned. Then his hand closed around my arm. We need to talk, now. Inside my office, the door barely closed before he exploded. You hired my ex, he snapped. As your assistant, are you out of your mind? I set my bag down slowly, deliberately. Is that a problem? You know exactly why it's a problem, he shot back. This is petty. This is humiliating. Humiliating for whom, I asked. You told everyone she was ambitious, driven, going places. I needed someone with those qualities. His face flushed red. I was drunk. I didn't mean it like that. You meant it enough to say it, I replied. Publicly. More than once. He paced the room, running his hands through his hair. This is insane, Tiffany. Make her quit. I can't do that, I said evenly. That would be illegal and unethical. She's my ex, he argued. She can't work here. She's an employee, I corrected. And she needs this job. That stopped him. What do you mean needs, he asked. I tilted my head. She didn't tell you? He stared at me. She's been unemployed for 8 months, I continued. Goldman let her go 2 years ago, performance issues. The startups after that all failed. She's been living with her parents. The words landed one by one, each heavier than the last. That's not true, he whispered. She told me she was consulting. I shrugged. People say a lot of things. He sank into the chair across from me, suddenly looking very small. The image he'd built, the ambitious ex, the standard he measured me against, cracked right in front of him. This is cruel, he said finally, his voice hollow. Cruel, I echoed. I gave a qualified woman a job when she needed one. If that makes you uncomfortable, maybe it's worth asking why. Silence stretched between us. I can't go to dinner, he said abruptly, standing. I need space. That's fine, I replied. He left without another word. He didn't come home that night. I watched the office lights flicker off one by one. Samantha's desk the last to go dark, and realized something quietly, almost with relief. Whatever we had been building together had already collapsed. This was just the moment the rubble became visible. Sean didn't come home that night, or the next. Instead, my phone lit up with a call from his mother the following afternoon. I stared at the screen for a full 3 rings before answering, already bracing myself. Tiffany, Gloria Chen said sharply, skipping any pretense of politeness. What is this I'm hearing about you humiliating my son? I hired an employee, I replied calmly. If Sean feels humiliated by his ex-girlfriend having a normal job, that's not something I can fix. You did this to hurt him, she snapped. You're punishing him. I'm running a business, I said. Sean spent months comparing me to Samantha in front of other people. This is the reality of that comparison. She scoffed. This is abusive behavior. Publicly belittling your partner and holding an ex up as a standard is abusive behavior, I said evenly. Providing employment is not. She hung up on me. The next morning, Samantha stood in my doorway, pale and shaking. Ms. Hart, she said, voice trembling. I think it's best if I resign. I gestured for her to sit. She didn't. Sean contacted you, I said. She nodded. Last night. He said this job was destroying his life. And yours, I asked. Her shoulders slumped. I need this job. Yes, I said gently. You do. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't threaten her. I just laid out the facts, her unemployment gap. The stability this role offered, the future growth she could have here. When I finished, she sat down heavily, eyes wet. You work for me, I said, not him. She stayed. That decision detonated something in Sean. On Monday, he showed up at the office unannounced with Tanya Walker in tow. They marched past reception as if they owned the place. Samantha saw them first and tried to disappear into the supply room. I called her into my office immediately. Samantha, I said loudly enough for them to hear, please take notes for this meeting. Sean's face flushed deep red. We need to talk privately, he demanded. Samantha stays, I replied. Company policy. Tanya crossed her arms. This is psychological warfare. This is a workplace, I said. Samantha, please document their concerns. Samantha typed furiously, eyes glued to her screen. Sean's voice cracked. Baby, please, I love you. I made one mistake. Multiple, I corrected. Over months. He turned to Samantha. Tell her how messed up this is. She didn't look up. I just work here. That was the moment everything snapped. Sean lunged forward shouting, and security escorted both of them out. I asked Samantha to write an incident report. Then came the social media posts. Sean published a long emotional rant about narcissistic abuse and workplace harassment, tagging my company. My lawyer sent a cease and desist within 24 hours. The post disappeared, but the screenshots didn't. 2 days later, Gloria showed up at my condo, convincing the doorman she was surprising me for my birthday. It wasn't my birthday. You're destroying my son, she said, jabbing a finger at my chest. Your son destroyed our relationship, I replied. I ended the engagement this morning. I showed her the text. She tried to slap me. Missed. Hit the doorframe instead. The security camera caught everything. That night, Sean texted demanding the ring back. I didn't respond. The fallout didn't arrive all at once. It came in waves, messy, uneven, and increasingly desperate. Sean resurfaced 3 days after his social media post vanished, this time with a new strategy. He showed up in the lobby of my building with a man I didn't recognize loud enough that even the concierge looked uncomfortable. Samantha was the one who alerted me from upstairs. "Ms. Hart," she said quietly over the intercom, "Sean is downstairs. With someone else." I closed my laptop. "Stay where you are." By the time I reached the lobby, Sean was pacing, his voice sharp and performative. The man beside him, tall, overdressed, and trying too hard, had his arms slung possessively around Sean's shoulders. "This is my boyfriend, Austin," Sean announced when he saw me. "He's a crypto investor." Austin smirked. "You can't treat him like this. He has rights." "He has the right to leave," I said calmly. "He's trespassing." Sean laughed brittle and loud. "We're not leaving until you fire her, or I sue you for emotional distress." I didn't look at him. I turned to Samantha instead. "Samantha," I said evenly, "please call the police and report harassment and trespassing." Her hands shook as she pulled out her phone, but she did it. The sound of dialing changed everything. Austin's confidence evaporated first. Sean's followed a second later, his face twisting as reality finally asserted itself. They left before the police arrived, but the report was filed anyway. After that, the unraveling accelerated. Austin disappeared within 2 weeks, vanished the moment Sean's money dried up, and the drama outweighed the bragging rights. Sean missed too many shifts at work, showed up drunk to a regional meeting, and was quietly terminated from his retail management role. His social media accounts went dark. No more affirmations. No more big moves. Last I heard through mutual friends, he'd moved back in with Gloria. Samantha, on the other hand, settled. Once the fear faded, something else emerged: competence without pretense. She stopped trying to impress. She did the work. She learned. She listened. One afternoon, she paused at my office door. "Can I be honest?" she asked. "Always." When I was with Sean, she said carefully, "he constantly compared me to other people, his friends, his cousins. Nothing was ever enough." I nodded. "Sounds familiar." She exhaled. "Getting fired from Goldman was actually a relief. I just didn't know how to admit it." That was the first time I saw her clearly, not as a symbol, not as a mirror, but as a person. 2 weeks later, the ring arrived by FedEx. Sean tried to claim it was a gift. My lawyer reminded him that engagement rings are conditional gifts in this state. I sold it. The money went to a local job placement charity. It felt appropriate. It had been a month since Samantha started working for me, when the noise finally died down. No more surprise visits. No more angry voicemails from Gloria. No more vague threats disguised as emotional appeals. The legal paperwork was finished, the police report filed, and Sean was, at least for now, a closed chapter. My company, meanwhile, was thriving. The hospital network contract that Sean had waved off so dismissively turned into 2 more within weeks. Expansion plans moved from tentative discussions to scheduled meetings. We started hiring again, carefully, intentionally. Real growth, not the kind you hashtag. Samantha stayed. She kept her head down, did her work, and stopped pretending to be someone she wasn't. One afternoon, after a long board meeting, she paused at my office door. "They're promoting me next month," she said quietly. "Operations role, not assistant." "You earned it," I replied. She nodded, then hesitated. "He'll probably lose his mind if he ever finds out." "He won't," I said. "He's blocked. Legally." She smiled small, relieved reel and left. As for me, I started seeing someone new. Michael Rivera from the hospital network we partnered with. He knew the entire story before our second date and laughed, not mockingly, but with clarity. "She told you who she was before you married her," he said. "That's not revenge. That's luck." Michael makes more than I do. And for the first time in my life, that fact didn't register as a threat, a comparison, or a failure. It was just information. Gloria still sends the occasional message, long, furious texts blaming me for Sean's downfall. I don't respond. Samantha forwards them to legal, where they're filed neatly under potential harassment. Someone asked me recently if I felt bad about any of it. I thought about the answer carefully. I gave an unemployed woman a stable job. I ran my company ethically. I refused to be shamed for building something real instead of flashy. And I walked away from a man who would never have valued what was right in front of him. No, I don't feel bad. The insult that started everything not ambitious enough turned out to be the clearest projection of all. Sean confused ambition with image, with titles, with proximity to people he could brag about. I was ambitious enough to build something tangible, ambitious enough to protect my boundaries, ambitious enough to choose respect over approval. Samantha is succeeding quietly. Sean is living loudly in someone else's basement.